In this video, you will watch all the poems of Class 12, with detailed explanation of each stanza. So, you can rely on this video, even if you are learning poems for the first time. Let's start.
Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doze open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and released with pain. That she was as old as she looked.
In the first stanza, she says, she is driving from her parents' home to the Cochin airport. Her mother is beside her. Her mother is dozing, means sleeping lightly, with her mouth open. Her face was ashen like that of a corpse. Ashen means gray like ash. Corpse means dead body. Means her face looks gray and like a dead body. The fact that her mother was growing older gave pain to the poet.
But soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their home.
But soon, the poet looked out of the car and saw the young trees sprinting, that is, running. The happy children spilling out of their homes.
But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked at her, wan, pale, as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, see you soon, Oma, and all I did was smile, and smile, and smile.
At the Cochin airport, they passed a security check. The poet sees her mother, a few yards away, and again looked at her. She considers her mother's face as wan, and pale like a late winter's moon. Wan means colorless, and pale means faded yellowish. Her mother's face looks colorless. It looks pale, as a late winter's moon. A late winter's moon has a faded color and less shine. She compares the paleness of a late winter's moon with her mother's pale face. Seeing her mother's wan and pale face, the old family ache returns to her. Her childhood fear returned. What fear? The fear is that, with aging comes decay and death. But she feels frightened when she looks the aging of her mother. But she pretends to be happy and says her mother, see you soon, and smiles at her.
Now, we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second, and not move our arms so much.
Pablo Neruda, in this stanza, asks us to count us to 12. For that period, we will keep still, that is, quiet. What does 12 mean here? It's not mentioned here. Maybe it's the 12 months of a year. Or the 12-hour signs of a clock. He asks us to keep quiet while you count to 12. But why? We all are in a hurry. Because of this, all the troubles occur. The poet asks us to not to speak in any language, at least once. Why? Because different languages sometimes become a reason for violence. The poet urges us to stop for a second and not move our arms so much. He is trying to say, we should not move our arms to harm others.
It would be an exotic moment. Without rush, without engines. We would all be together, in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. And the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands.
Pablo Neruda says that when we all will keep still, it would be an exotic moment. Exotic means fantastic or enticing. It would be a moment without rush, without engines. Engines? Means there will be no noise of machines, engines, devices. We all would be together in a sudden strangeness. Means it will be a strange moment, exotic, surprising. The fisherman will not harm whales. The poet asks us to not harm whales, not harm animals. The man who is gathering salt will look at his hurt hands. We always are in a hurry to complete our need and greed. We don't see what we've sacrificed for that. That's why the man should see his hands, which are hurt by the salt.
Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about their brothers in the shade, doing nothing.
Those who prepare green wars means those who promote green wars, that is, warmongers. Why are the wars green? All wars are against the environment. Wars produce nothing other than deaths and degradation of natural resources. Wars with gas Wars with fire means wars with poisonous gases and fire weapons. Victory with no survivors. If the warmongers win the war, there will be no survivors to see their victory. Pablo says, those who prepare green wars with gas, fire, with no survivors, should put on clean clothes and walk with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. They should put clothes that are not stained with warriors' blood, signs of war. They would walk with their enemies, who, in fact, are their brothers. They would walk together, under the tree shade, means, enjoying in the nature, and doing nothing.
What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping lives moving, and for once, could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death.
Goods. Are you a fool? What has this poem got to do with trucks? Actually, in Old English, truck means to exchange, or to bargain. The poet says, he wants no truck with death. Means, he wants no exchange with death. He doesn't want that people kill people, for territory, for money. He says, we should not be so single-minded, as we just keep our lives moving. We should stop for a moment, do nothing, and rest in peace. Oh, we should rest. Pablo says, this huge silence might disturb the sadness. Which sadness? The sadness of never understanding ourselves, and of threatening ourselves with death. Fear of death.
Perhaps the earth can teach us when everything seems dead, and later proves to be alive. Now, I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go.
Pablo says that the earth can teach us a lesson. When everything seems dead, it later proves to be alive. When trees are cut, it seems dead. But the earth regenerates, and proves to be alive, and he will go. Means, he has conveyed his message of keeping quiet, that is, doing nothing.
A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep, full of sweet dreams, and health, and quiet breathing.
John Keats says that a thing of beauty always gives joy. Its loveliness increases as time goes by. It will never pass into nothingness. Means, it will never turn into nothing. It keeps a quiet bower for us. What is a bower? A bower is a shady place under a tree. The poet says, a thing of beauty provides bower for us, which is quiet, peace, and pleasure. It gives us sleep, full of sweet dreams. It provides health, and quiet breathing.
Therefore, on every morrow, are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and over-darkened ways made for our searching. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits.
On every tomorrow, we are wreathing, means, weaving, a flower band, to bind us all, to the earth. There is despondence of the inhuman dearth of noble natures. Despondence means, disappointment. Dearth means, lack. Means, in spite of the disappointment, of the inhuman lack of noble qualities, in spite of the gloomy, sad days, in spite of all the unhealthy and evil ways, in spite of all these things, some beauty
Daffodils, with the green world they live in, and clear rills, that, for themselves, a cooling covert to make against the hot season. The mid-forest brake, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk-rose blooms. And such, too, is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead. All lovely tales that we have heard or read. An endless fountain of immortal drink pouring unto us from the heaven's brink.
The sun, the moon, old and young trees that grow a shady boon. Boon means blessing. The trees provides shade, which is like a blessing for a simple sheep. Why for sheep? Why not for humans? Here, simple sheep refers to the common human beings. Trees provide shady boon to all the humans. And the daffodils. Daffodil is a flower. Daffodils live in the green world of plants and trees. Clear rills, that is, transparent small streams, make a shelter for the daffodils to help them survive against the hot season. Mighty dead. our powerful forefathers, whose lovely tales we have heard, or read of. The death day of the mighty dead is a thing of beauty, an endless fountain of immortal drink. What does immortal drink signify here? The beauty of nature. The fountain of nature's beauty pours into our souls, from the heaven. In this stanza, John Keats has glorified the things of beauty. The sun, the moon, the trees' shade, daffodils, rails saving them from hot season, the forest bushes with roses, grandeur of dooms of the mighty dead.
A little old house was out, with a little new shed. In front, at the edge of the road, where the traffic sped, a roadside stand, too pathetically pled. It would not be fair to say, for a dole of bread, but for some of the money, the cash, whose flow supports the flower of cities, from sinking and withering faint.
There is a little old house, at the side of a road. The local people there have built a new shed, not for a dope flow of the money, which makes city life luxury, and saves the flower from sinking and fainting.
The polished traffic passed with a mind ahead, or if ever, aside a moment, then out of sorts, at having the landscape marred with the artless paint of signs that with and turned wrong, and as turned wrong, offered for sale wild berries in wooden quarts.
The polished traffic means the rich people of the city who pass the stand. The polished traffic passed with a mind ahead means they don't stop to see the roadside stand. Their mind is on the destination. But if ever they stop there, at the roadside stand, they go out of sorts. Means they become irritated. They think that the poor people have spoilt the beauty of the landscape with such an artless paint. The roadside stand, the shed, the interior, was artless, spoiling the landscape of signs that with N turned wrong, and S turned wrong. What are N and S here? The roadside stand had painted north and south directions, but both are placed wrong. The stand offered wild berries in wooden quarts. Wild berry is a species of berries, but smaller. It's put in wooden quarts, that is, containers. The rich people ignore it.
Or crook-necked golden squash with silver warts, or beauty rest in a beautiful mountain scene. You have the money, but if you want to be mean, why keep your money this crossly, and go along?
The roadside stand also sold golden squash fruits. But the fruits are crook-necked, and with silver warts. Silver warts grow up on the fruit's skin. The words, crook-necked, and silver warts, show the bad quality of the golden squash they sold. Or beauty rest, in a beautiful mountain scene. Means, they also sell the paintings they made. So now, we know 3 things they sold. Wild berries in wooden quarts, crook-necked golden squash with silver warts, and the paintings. The rich people have the money, but they want to be mean. But when the city people show anger, this makes the poor people angry.
You have the money, but if want to be mean, why keep your money this crossly? Go along.
To hurt the scene wouldn't be my complaint, so much as the trusting sorrow of what is unsaid.
Here, far from the city, we make our roadside stand, and lust for some money to feel in hand, to try if it will not make our being expand, and give us a life of the moving picture's promise, that the party in power is said to be keeping from us.
The poet doesn't complain that the roadside stand hurts the beautiful scenery, but he complains about the unsaid sorrow of the poor. Rich people, on the contrary, complain about the hurt to the scenery, and they don't see the sorrow of the poor people. But what is that unsaid sorrow? The poor people make the roadside stand, far away from the city, on the road, in hope of feeling money in their hands. They hope that some city dwellers will give them money, with which they could expand their work, and thus, give them life of the moving pictures promise. The moving pictures, that is, movies etc. show that if one works hard, he can become rich. But this is far from reality. They hope the city dwellers will give them a better life, which parties in power have failed to do. The party in power seem to help the poor people, but actually, all the money goes to the corrupted hands, and the poor people are deprived of it.
It is in the news that all these pitiful kin are to be bought out and mercifully gathered in to live in villages next to the theater and the store, where they won't have to think for themselves anymore. while greedy good doers, beneficent beasts of prey, swarm over their lives, enforcing benefits that are calculated to soothe them out of their wits. And by teaching them how to sleep, they sleep all day, destroying their sleeping at night, the ancient way.
The poet heard the news that these pitiful kin means relatives. These poor families are to be bought out from there, to mercifully, that is, kindly settled, given jobs, to live in villages, next to the theater and the store. Near the theater, that is, animals swarm over their prey. These businessmen exploit the people for their own benefits that are calculated to soothe them out of their wits. Means, the people's lives are planned to be frightened, and by teaching them how to sleep, they sleep all day. Means, they convince the poor people by making fake promises, so that they'll sleep. But they themselves sleep all day, and they destroy their sleeps, the ancient way, by exploiting them.
Sometimes I feel, myself I can hardly bear the thought of so much childish longing in vain, that sadness that lurks near the open window there, that waits all day in almost open prayer. For the squeal of brakes, the sound of stopping car, of all the
The poet cannot bear to see the childish desire that someone might buy things from them. Their sadness lurks, that is, lies unseen, near the open window, that waits all day in praying for the squeal, that is noise of the brakes, and the sound of a car stopping. Of all the 1,000 selfish cars pass, they pray that just one would stop and ask about the prices. And one car did stop. But it stopped just to use the yard to turn back. It plowed up the grass of the yard. The second car stopped to ask the way to where it was to go. And the third car stopped to ask for a gallon of gas, because there was no gas station near.
As I come back into the sane, I wonder how I should like you to come to me and offer to put me gently out of my pain.
Countryside means rural area. The poet says that the level of gain of the countryside has never been able to lift the spirits of the people. And this is what the people complain about their poverty. The poet says he will feel a great relief if all these people are put out of pain in one stroke. What does this mean? The poet is of the opinion that these people should be killed at once, so that they'll not have to feel the pain anymore. But this is an unrealistic and inhumane idea. So next day, when the poet come into the sane, means when the poet becomes sensible, he wants that he himself should be killed, as he can't bear to see their pain.
Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance across a screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear from the men beneath the tree. They pace in sleek chivalric certainty.
Poet Adrian Rich says, Aunt Jennifer's tigers prance, that is, jump across a screen. Means, they are not real tigers. Aunt Jennifer is making the tigers, on a panel. Bright topaz denizens, of a world of green. Denizen means, inhabitant or dweller. Topaz is a precious stone of yellow color. Auntie's tigers are yellow like a topaz. Auntie's tigers are bright, yellow like a topaz, and are denizens of a world of green. They live in the green world, in the jungle. They don't fear from the men under the tree. They pace in sleek, chivalric certainty. Sleek means graceful, and chivalric means brave. Means, they run in graceful and brave confidence.
Aunt Jennifer's fingers, fluttering through her wool, find even the ivory needle, hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand.
Auntie's fingers are fluttering, moving through her wool. She finds the ivory needle, hard to pull. Means, she is weaving her tigers on a panel, by stitching wool, with ivory needles. Why were her fingers fluttering? Because, she is old. The massive weight of Uncle's, that is, her husband's wedding band, sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. Here, the wedding band symbolizes her unpleasant married life. This wedding band, her hard experiences in her married life, sits heavily upon her hands. Means, she is not able to bear the burden. But though it's being hard for her, she makes ferocious tigers, that are not afraid of men. They symbolize strength and confidence.
When Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid.
When Auntie will die, her terrified, frightened hands will still lie ringed with the ordeals she was controlled by. Ordeals mean hard experiences. Even after her death, the signs of the ordeals will still be visible on her old, afraid hands. On the other hand, the tigers she made on the panel will still be jumping ahead, confident, and not afraid of men. Auntie will die, but her tigers will still be jumping on. See the irony? The tigers, symbolizing strength, will be jumping. But the one who made them is old, weak, and frightened. Through this poem, the poet, Adrienne Rich, exposes the restrictions of married life, of a woman. Wait. One very important thing is still left. Figures of speech. You can watch this video, as it contains almost all the figures of speech that can be asked, and are explained using examples from these poems of Class 12.